Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste viewers, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA, Jaipur Dialogue. And before we begin the show, wanted to request all of you to like, share, subscribe and press the bell icon and support both Jaipur Dialogue and Jaipur Dialogue USA. We are concurrently carrying the theme that we must do things together. To begin with, I wanted to express our deepest gratitude to Mr. Harish Sahniji, a Hindu community activist in Long Island, who has very well supported the sponsorship of this particular segment today. And, thank you very much, Harishji. So let's kick off straight away. And I have great pleasure in welcoming two remarkable young men who make me feel young at the same time. Sharad Mohanji and Mr. Aditya Satsangi ji. Aditya Satsangi ji is known to the audiences because he has been very popular with his Sattology channel. He's a brilliant author, of excellent mind. I have no hesitation in paying him the compliment he deserves. And he has written many books. And he sent me the book. This program is not about reviewing his book, but wanted you to know that his book, Gold, Glory, and God, is a must read. I've started reading it, and some point in time we will review the whole book. The second gentleman, Mr. Sharad Mohan, is coming on this particular show for the first time, but he has been on, I have known him for a while. He is also a very sharp mind, man from technology domain, done very well in his life, and he is also an author of several books, including the Bermuda Triangle, which he talked about Kashmir as the Bermuda Triangle of India. And incidentally, the cover of that particular book is exactly what Vivek Agnihotri carried out in Kashmir Files. That's a remarkable thing to happen. The vision and the insights of Sharad Mohanji is very powerful. And his book, Rebooting Bihar, if not now, when, has been, I have read this book. It is a brilliant analysis of the problems plaguing Bihar. Enough of their praise, enough of their introduction, but I want to get straight away into the groove of the conversation that, in the US, I often hear Christians often talk about that how Christians are persecuted around the world. This is the theme that goes about. About Muslims, less said the better, because they have already succeeded in putting through Congress an Islamophobia bill. The two religious denominations who dominate the world in conversation on religion, they both cry about being discriminated against. Whereas the one faith, the most peaceful faith in the world, the Sanatanis, who are otherwise known as Hindus, we are the ones who are most persecuted, hated, disliked, attacked. But we don't even cry about it. So now in the 21st century, with the advent of technology, we are getting to know that we are the target. Why? Why so much Hindu hatred? There is one country that is Hindu, calls itself secular. We don't even call ourselves a Hindu nation. We don't even call ourselves Sanatani nation. Why are we under attack? So let's dive into that. And Aditya ji, I will kick off with you that what is the reason, as Kashmir File has shown the movie, even New Zealand, they wanted to ban the movie led by some Muslim organizations, but fortunately, the freedom triumphed and the movie will be shown. So global upheaval has happened. And so there are a lot of things happening amongst the Hindu communities. What is the reason for the Hindu hatred and what the Hindu response ought to be? Go ahead, sir.
Hindu hatred is an unfounded topic, because unfounded is the reasons are practically unknown why there is a Hindu hatred. More than 65 million Americans attend yoga. If they attend yoga, that means they have to understand that is the gift of Hindu culture. And the meditation, the word karma, including the bad usage of words like thug by the President Biden, is also a Hindu word. So Hindus have contributed a lot to this society, and so Hindu hatred is unfounded. Even Islamic countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and also Yemen, Oman, many of these places have Hindu groups helping proactively. Kurds should be very grateful to Hindu groups coming from Shishi Ravi, as Shishi Ravi Shankar ji, The Art of Living, where Hindus have provided so much help. Hindus are providing help in Ukraine. It is the Hindu management which is doing that. Indian Army saved people in tsunami, which is majority made of Indians, which are Hindus. And also, even though Indian Army is largely religion neutral, but still majority of the people are there. So Hindu hatred is an unfounded topic. I Hindu phobia is unfounded because Hindus have not done anything which demands a fear of their community. Anyone should be afraid of them. And largely, if you look at the American comic series or comedians, they usually make fun of Indians because they know they are completely harmless. And in terms of they have no evil thought, because any society which believes in karma cannot hurt others because it's a bad karma for them. So the entire foundation is coming from a deep rooted Abrahamic hatred. I sometimes I call it kafir phobia, kufr phobia, or infidel phobia, which is what the Abrahamic faiths are suffering from. And that hatred, it transforms into a Hindu hatred or community hatred. But there is nothing which Hindu community has done that they should be hated for.
You are absolutely right. And that's what I always wonder. We are the most peaceful, most loved immigrant community anywhere in the world. We are not a law and order problem anywhere in the world. So there is no need for. But then comes the issue: why are we under attack? What have we done to deserve these uncharitable attacks that happens on us? And that's the important part. And the recent story of, as we are all witness to the movie Kashmir Files here in the US, which was a remarkably successful tour launch of the movie, which created, to use the Hindi word bavander, in the minds of people, that one of the things that has happened is the number of people who said, oh my God, this was happening right in our backyard and we didn't know about it. So the question then arises, and then there are people like Bollywood and others who don't even comment on the movie. They're so afraid. Like the famous actor Nawazuddin said, वो उनका अपना point of view है, उनका होने दीजिए. Really? It's a point of view? It's a truth telling. Truth telling is not a point of view. So the people have been totally shocked. So, Sharadji, give your thoughts on this. I mean, it's important for, we are NRIs, like we are NRIs, we are subject to a lot of things. Like in the US, the caste thing is happening. So there is no evidence of caste-based discrimination in this country, but we are being pointed out, singled out as the biggest discriminatory and evil people, that we ruin other people's lives. Is that true? And if it is true, what are we supposed to do about it? And if it's not true, what must we do about it?
Okay. So this is opening a statement, so there will be little one more extra time, 1 minute. But thank you, Jaipur Dialogues, for giving me this opportunity. Actually, I have come on TV with Vibhuti Ji on a different show. But Vibhuti Ji, congratulations for your nomination for the poll. That's
I'm
another
not
thing
making
which
it public here on TV, so let it be there.
sure, okay,
But
and
I will make that announcement myself. So
sure,
thank
sure,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now coming to the Hindu being under attack in USA as an Indian American, my take on this is we have to see how America has formed, right? Who has formed America? Primarily the people from England, British. And when I was writing my the latest book, which is shown behind me, India America War in 2047, prophecy, paradox, or possibility, I did a lot of research finding the way the American society evolved in early 1700, right, which is 18th century, and I found a lot of anecdotes which makes me think why Americans think like that. First of all, the greatest hero of American politician is Churchill. Mr. Churchill, who we all know and has been recorded, was a proven racist, and he had a special love for India in a negative way, starting from the Bengal famine, where he killed so many people. It's bigger than any genocide known. And he is still revered in American political circle as somebody who they keep on quoting. Now, Churchill's mother was an American, Jenny Spencer Churchill. She was an American born Britisher. So there is a love relationship there. Then came the church, right? And again, when I'm making all this statement to all the viewers, I'm not against any faith. I'm just putting my point of view, which I feel. So there is nothing hatred against the Christianity or the Islamic or all those things, right? I, as a proud Hindu and a proud Indian American, I'm putting my views. So then came the evangelist church, right? In 1800, after the in the 1945, after the Second World War, when some of the Sikh soldiers from the European countries migrated to California, there were a lot of racist statement made for them. This was the start of the Indian presence in America. Okay, and they were not allowed to marry any white girls. They eventually ended up marrying, and they could not bring their wife from India, so they ended up marrying a lot of Mexican people. And how this is how their family history started in America. And there's a book written on that. Then comes 80s was little mild, right? India was in the opposite camp, in the Russian camp, and Pakistan was in American camp. So the entire foreign policy of America and the politician had a different view for India till actually 9/11 happened. 71, we all know that America sent the nuclear powered ship to the Bay of Bengal. So all these things in the name of democracy. If you see a lot of evangelist church article, the way they have chosen India as a farming ground for, they see 700. I was reading just yesterday, and I can share those articles. They are saying that India had around, at that time when this article was written, around 800 million Hindus, a fertile ground for evangelists to go and convert them. And they have given 10, 20 principles of how you can approach them. Don't attack their God, but take their God in your, and then portray things. Like they have given 10 steps, and I will share that article from the evangelist church in 80s. So all this thing was happening. So it was always there, the undercurrent was always there, but we were not in this big population after the dot-com bust, or after 9/11, when we were in a big number. And that's where we start feeling the in day-to-day life, some of the pushback, we being a Hindu. There is one infamous incident. There was an American consulate, I think her name was Michelle Cho. She was posted in Chennai, and she took a train from New Delhi to Odisha. I think she was going to Jagannath Puri. And and in those days, Indian train would take 2 days, 3 days to reach the destination. She made and she's an American consulate, a white lady, and she made a statement that, oh, the train kept on going for 3 days, and when I reached Jagannath Puri, I was as dark and dirty like any Tamilian, and it's so much halla was created that she had to come back to America. So this was the mindset. It was all evolving. It is now when we have, say, India is a big country, that is a strategic alliance with America. The politicians have toned down their rhetoric, but underneath there is a Hindu phobia, which we call it religiosophobia. Very recently, Indian government made that statement. So I think it was always there. Now it is us to make sure that we don't beg for acceptance, but we make them accept. Thank you. Sorry for
Thank you
the
very
long.
much for a very powerful opening. And Aditya ji, I will take off from Sharad ji's mention about the conversion part of it. So like the statement, 800 million people are a fertile ground for us to go ahead and evangelize. And I call that, as India has become a happy hunting ground for all kinds of people, because they know that we are benign. We know that we are not violent people. It takes a lot to stir up or anger a Hindu. This is very, very important part, conversion. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. In my opinion, conversion is a sin against God's original intent. We are Vibhuti, Aditya, and Sharad here, right? We could have been John, Muhammad, and Jesus here. but God willed us to be who we are. So for anybody to convert us, coming to convert in the name of God to a particular faith, in my opinion, it's a sin against God's original intent. We say nothing about it. And as Sharadji mentioned, that we are not against anyone. We don't talk about anything. So we are making an inquiry. It's a classic Hindu seeker's mind that we want to know what's all this about. So conversion is a big business, right? How does, and what I have found is that in Kashmir particularly, people who are converted, their names are Nayak, Bhatt, Kaul, who have become Muslim. They are even more rabid anti-Hindu people than the original Muslims, if you say. The other day, Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad said so on the TV, that all Muslims are originally Kashmiri Hind Pandits. So the converted ones are even more vicious because they suffer from three psychological pressures. One is they converted because of fear of death, maybe sword or gun, right? Jina hai to convert karo. Famous slogan in Kashmir was convert, leave or die. Then they abandon their faith and family, and they have sought shelter in other faith. So they have to prove their affiliation to the adopted faith even more viciously by being more vicious against Hindus than they are. How do we address this issue of conversion? Please, your thoughts on this matter. It's a critical issue.
Actually, the in if you look at the any Abrahamism faith, Abrahamism, all Abrahamism faiths are built around conversion to increase their followers, and that's what the book title I wrote is Gold, Glory, and God. For either gold, so they used to, like many Arabs bought Hindu traders from Kabul for money, and that's how they converted them. Or, and ultimately it comes down to sword. Those who do not willingly convert through gold or any other allurements, then ultimately comes the sword. Or it happened in Christianity also. The entire Philippines was a Hindu country where it was forcibly converted from being a Hindu to a Christian in just 100 years. And so the Crusades have played a very large role in building up the Roman Catholic population. Most of the Crusades were done by the Catholic Church. And now, if we look at the Hindu culture, we also, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that those who tell others about me are very dear to me. Now, the conversion happens from bad habits to good habits. Now, we all know the bad habits of bad effect of eating red meat on our heart and cholesterol is a very well-known scientific fact. If somebody leaves that and adopts a vegan diet or vegetarian diet because of influence of yoga, so that means he is moving from a bad life to a good life. However, in the case of Abrahamism religions, people go from good habits to bad habits. So that is not a good conversion, because now they've gone from a healthy lifestyle to an unhealthy lifestyle. In case of Sanatan Dharma, when people become yogi, so many American yogis now, they chant Om, they say Namaste, and they have gone from bad lifestyle to a good lifestyle. And there is a misconception being spread around that if you eat meat, then you are stronger. That is not the reality, actually. If you eat, most of the large, strong animals are vegetarians.
Yes.
So it's a lot of propaganda is going around here. Now, coming to one point where Sharadji very accurately point out, there is underlying hatred of brown skin out of insecurity. The European race, I don't call them whites, I say European race, which settled in this country, displacing the Native Americans, they always had the community insecurity in them of uh, against an unknown enemy. So in that fear, they killed millions of Native Americans, and natives are their culture is not even found in this country. And they also had an inherent fear. Now they have inherent fear of Japanese in the 80s. You have seen those campaigns where Japanese were kicked out. Now they started a Chinese one. The Chinese were supposed to be kicked out. Now the Russians is going on. And the next number will be probably Indians. And Muslims have also gone through that phase. But Islamophobia bill probably has protected them, but there is no protection for other brown skins. So I think there is Indian Americans will be the next target of this same kind of racist attitude. However, they need to know that if the Indian Americans stop contributing, that America will become a fourth world country, not even third world.
I love that powerful statement that you made, that if Indian Americans stop contributing, America will become a fourth world country. This
After
is
Africa, after
after
Africa.
Africa. So this is a powerful statement, which I'm 100% sure many Americans will not like it. So don't say anything which makes you unlikable. As it is, we are
No,
under so
they
many.
already don't like me because of my book.
No, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But here is another part. I want to spend some time on the conversion part of the story, because what bothers me is when Christians and Muslims indulge in conversion in India, it is attributed as religious freedom. But Hindus do Ghar wapsi, it is termed religious bigotry, right? Sharadji, your thought on it. Is it media manipulated, or is it that we do not know how to do things right? Where
So it's
is the
both.
issue here?
So it's both. So I will give you my example. I studied in Dhanbad. Now it's Jharkhand. My school was very famous school. It was by somebody called Mr. Robert De Nobili. Robert De Nobili came and first become Brahmin. He converted himself. He learned Sanskrit. It's a big institution. It's a Jesuit school. De Nobili School in Dhanbad. They have 10 branches, right? And then the principal during my time was Father George W. Hess. He was a Maryland born, a very bright young evangelist who was about to join Stanford. And then he got an offer to, go and help, they call salvation. Go to a country like India and bring those people back to the God's life. So he came there. Even though he was not a very a Christian in that way, where he converted, he was a reward in a very different way. He changed there, but this is how it started. And if the conversion is one of the big factor. They initially started attacking the tribals. So the manual which I am referring, there they're saying that why are we focusing more on the tribal, which is only 7% of the Indian population? Go and convert the mainstream. And that's where they have given all those principles. So conversion was always one big factor. There are a lot of money which was pumped through the NGOs. And that's where, when in 2014, when the Modi government came, they put a lot of control on those kind of NGO activities. And that's where the Western media was George Soros type of people were totally against India, and they were bad mouthing India. So conversion is one of the big factor with Christianity spread. We have not done it. When I say we do not have a concept of Ghar wapsi in our scriptures as such. We just show the path, because our is a very diverse and very different views. Maybe some sampradaya will not agree to this, but generally speaking, there is no central body in India which can coordinate these type of things like the other faith, right? That's one of the reason. As far as Islam is concerned, it was not more on an educational way. It was two ways. Like, if you see my book Kashmir, the Bermuda Triangle of India, and the movie which Vivek Agnihotri ji made, in that movie it's only the exodus, the last exodus he's mentioned, right? Which is his time frame of the movie was 1990 and maybe a little bit of the 2003. But there are, before that, there were 6 exodus which happened in Kashmir, starting from Sikandar Shah in 1306. There were 6 exodus. This was the seventh. But earlier exodus and conversion happened because of the smartly use of the Sufism, which I have mentioned in my book. And I was very happy to see that Vivek has also used that. Sufism, which is very acceptable to the Indians, especially the Kashmiris, because of the Shaivite tradition there. They were easily lured into converting, so they have used that ploy. And then obviously sword and all those things also came, but Sufism was one of the big factor in Kashmir to convert a large chunk of people. Ghulam Nabi Azad is saying that his grandfather was 600 years old Hindu. But I would say it's not even 600. It would be not more than 2 to 300, because from the Pakistanis, Iqbal, everybody converted just 5 generation back, 5 or 6 generation back. So there should be a DNA test on these people. So finally, concluding a remark: yes, Hindus do not know the way to proceed, because this is an institutionalized way of conversion. Hindus are not institution; we are not central in character, and that could be one of the reasons.
So, what is the way out, Aditya ji? Like how do we contest the concept of freedom of religion? Because I believe that the concept of freedom of religion is a political instrument of the Western democracy. It's part of our essential being. Because in our faith, in Sanatani, there is no imposition, as Sharad was saying, that you have to do this, you have to do that. You can pray to whoever you want, pray any number of times you want, or don't pray at all. But eventually, your actions, your karma defines you. So, how do we address that issue? Because, in my opinion, I take the stand that the freedom of religion need not be part of our constitution, which is again a Western document. So, freedom of religion need not be part of our, because we are that. It's like saying, you prove that you are a man. I don't need to give a proof that I'm a man, or a woman need not have to give a proof that she is a woman. So it is part of our essential being. How do we address that? आप mute पे हैं साहब. You are on mute.
Nowadays, the women have to be given a certificate by a biologist to be called.
Yeah, Supreme Court nominee judge says she found it difficult to define what a woman is. God knows what world we are coming to, but then that's a topic for another day. Go ahead, sir.
So the very good question actually, and if you look at the movements today, so Maharishi Mahesh Yogi did a very successful launch of transcendental meditation,
Yes.
and then we had ISKCON. Prabhupada did a very successful. At one point, Prabhupada had the newspaper articles were there that he is going to convert the whole America into Hare Krishna. That was the biggest fear amongst the American politicians.
Right.
And it used to be published in New York Post, and so many TV stations were interviewing him all over the US. And also the third wave was Sadhguru, which is going on right now, where every single American knows him and he's being talked in different circles. Now, one thing is that none of our gurus, they asked for conversion. They did not say that you need to stop being a Muslim or a Christian and become a Hindu. What they said was that add these good qualities like chanting, meditation in your lives, and your life will improve. So that was an open architecture, whatever you call it, open system. The only solution will be now is what we have seen, that it works very well amongst the majority of the intelligent American crowd. But most of the power of the church and all these Abrahamism faith systems comes from captive audience, which Sharadji very rightly said. Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism it is not designed that way. It is designed to keep a person intelligent, and the real freedom of thought is present only in Sanatan Dharma culture. So many of our gurus have successfully done it. In fact, when an American starts moving his head like this, trying to copy an Indian, I know there is something wrong. Because that person has adopted the physical attributes, not the internal attributes. And somehow they lose the balance of life, where they focus on this type of Hinduness instead of getting in a Hindu in terms of karma. So it is a duty of all the educated Hindus and the gurus also to understand, to make people understand that if you want to be called a scientist or an intelligent person, then you have to adopt Sanatan Dharma, because it is not dogmatic. And that should be the message from every single Indian American or Hindu American living in this country. When that happens, then Sanatan Dharma will become a part of a regular American life cycle, which actually they want to become like a Sanatan Dharma, open minded person, but the dogmas of the mosque and the church stop them from actually living that life.
Very well said. The point of the matter still remains, that, in my opinion, it remains that while we do what we do in America, the threat is back home and to Hindus all over the world. And to that end, like for example, how do we reconvert? Because it is part of an awake. There definitely, there somebody will say that you guys did not protect. The Kashmir file is a story. Kashmir is a very burning example for us, all Hindus all over the world, to think about it. That atrocity was happening. The seventh Exodus happened, and that was also suppressed. Guess by who? By Kashmiri Indira Gandhi, by Kashmiri Rajiv Gandhi, or before that, Nehru. I mean, Kashmiris people believed that Pandit Nehru would be their own guy and he will do nothing against them. On the contrary, Pandit Nehru was the one who was a sellout in that matter. So the question arises, what is it amongst us that we sell out so easily and we are not able to bring the things back? And that's the important part. Many people are worried that if the rate of conversion that is happening, the rabid hate that the converted Hindus, who do against Hindus, how do we curb that? Sharaji, how do we curb?
So, very good question. And I also have not found the exact answer. I was talking other day with somebody where I said that if you see any atheist, they are always Hindus. If a Muslim, I don't see any Muslim or Christian become an atheist in India. And so all this Khan market, so-called Khan market gang, cabal, and the Stephen, I have a lot of friends from St. Stephen College in Delhi, and they're all Hindus with Bhatiyas and all kinds of names, surname, and they do have their parents go to the Hindu temple and all, but they're all atheists, right? If you see the entire Kashmir movement when it started with Sheikh Abdullah, right, who was challenging Raja Hari Singh, Sheikh Abdullah started as a communist, and this communist Muslim then turned into a fanatic Muslim. Whereas Hindus, if they become a communist, they become diehard anti-Hindu. So there is something in the genes or some psychological level of study that needs to be done that has not been done. Why Hindus take that stand, right? That's where I was giving the example of my school, De Nobili, when the whole plan was to attack the Brahmins who were the education provider or the knowledge giver or the somebody who were the influencer of the society at that time. So whether it's a Raja Ram Mohan Roy or other prominent the Brahmins, some of them were tapped to become a more intellectual, progressive, giving them an Oxford kind of education during British era, to use them as an influencer. So something in our genes which we need to find out. I was hearing a debate yesterday in the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha by Mr. N. Dubey. I think he's from UP and from BJP. He gave a very good speech. He said that he was this was in a little different context, but coming to this topic, he said that the corruption was so much high in the UPA government that they used around 3,000 crore worth of Indian rupees in a form of a donation to all the Ivy colleges of America, whether it's a Harvard chair, whether Stanford chair, Princeton chair. He gave the number. Government has a number, 3,000 crore through some agency. Now, none of these people contributed a single all these monies went to a different cause. It never went for having a Upanishad chair or a Veda chair or a Mahabharata chair and educate American diaspora or educated intellectual on our scriptures, right? It's not regressive, it's very pro woman, it's very, even it is supporting LGBT, which is the latest fad in America.
Mhm.
We had all those stories that is missing. There is no coordinated effort. I think that's where we probably lack. Is my viewpoint, and that's where this government has to. I think just recently they have starting ICAR or something, where they will be now spreading Indian education and ancient value system in the American education system. There's a lot of gap. I think America has to be told that story. Unfortunately, our representative, whether it's Pramila Jaipal ji or Mr. Ro Khanna or whoever, they are first generation politician, unlike our South Carolina Bobby Jindal, who had to even convert to be uh, called as a American politician. So that phase is over now. Now you can be a Hindu or you can be a Sikh and still be in American system, but it's slow transformation happening. But we need to enter the education institution, like we see what's happening in New Jersey with that lady Adre Tushki or somebody. She's so full of venom against
Yeah.
Hinduism.
The
She's
hate
saying
shows
Aurangzeb
up.
was a great leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are right. You took up Audrey Trushke's name, and there are several like that who are purely driven by hate. But Aditya ji, my inquiry would be again here is that are we Hindus apathetic, or we just don't give a damn, or we are just too lazy to respond? Because there is a thing called dharma. We have talked about dharma in the past, like Mahabharata, Gita, Ramayana. These are absolutely wonderful texts. I won't say they're story, they're texts of lessons of life. And they don't say don't fight. You have to rise to fight for your dharma. How is it that the modern Hindu has become so adharmic, so apathetic, that Sharad was talking about? There's something wrong with our DNA. I have said so myself, so we agree with that thought process. There's something wrong with our DNA. And that bothers me because look at 1941 census of India. To all the viewers I'm urging today, look up the 1941 census of India. And I was astonished. And if you are not aghast, I'll be surprised. There were total number of British in this country was 1,45,000. If you are from India, that number will resonate. If you are in America, it is 145,000. British were in this country, in India, who ruled India, plus women and children. Point is, the 145,000 British used millions of Indians to rule them, their resources, their people, and they were called democracy. And we became so apathetic that we didn't even respond. How do you attribute that lethargy in Hindus? What the response ought to be, Aditya ji? Unmute yourself, please. Yeah.
You said the 145,000 number. Now I'll give you another spin to that number.
Yeah.
Those 145,000 people were the British Army.
Yes, British Army. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. British, yeah.
So Britain will need just 150,000 Indian Army people to rule Britain. That's the analogy. So that's how you work. Indian Army can easily 150,000 men from Indian Army can control entire Britain if they have a military superiority. That's how the army works. 1:20, 1:30. So now coming to your question on the Hindu lethargy. The biggest problem is we all want to be called Hindu, but we don't read our books. British banned Mahabharata and said that Mahabharata, if you keep Mahabharata in the house, there'll be fights in the family. Now the same Mahabharata, I've written many books, 11 books I've written, and one of them is Yudhishthir Narada. Now Narada tells Yudhishthir that if your armies are not strong and not constantly attacking the enemy to establish Sanatan Dharma, then you will become a slave, dasatva. You'll become a slave. That's what the Pandavas fought for, because they were humiliated to become a slave. Dasatva means slave. Now, we have been told, हमने किसी पे आक्रमण नहीं किया. If you look at the history, the entire European colonization is a military conquest to extract the resources of the lands where they went. So even the USA is an occupied territory by the Europeans, where the Native Americans' rights have been taken away till date. The XL pipeline is a striking example of that. It will hurt many Americans. But I totally oppose the XL pipeline because it goes over the sacred sites of the Native Americans, which all we need to respect. And if we do not respect, our dharma will not let us live peacefully, because one of our fellow Americans is not able to practice their own faith and their culture. In USA, the Indian universities and the Indian academics always try to get validation from American universities. A donkey, if he doesn't know anything, is just going to bray. So when an intelligent person goes to a donkey, he is not going to hear anything wiser words than a bray, the donkey's sound. That is the situation with the people belonging to Vedic culture going to Abrahamic faith for validation. Harvard Hindu Studies, Francis Clooney, who is the head of the Harvard Hindu Studies, he is a Christian pastor teaching Hinduism in Harvard. So now, how can a Christian pastor comment on Ramanujacharya's teachings when he doesn't have faith? He's going to introduce Christianity into Ramanujacharya's teachings also. And that's called inculturation. That means adopting the symbols and cultures of the natives while promoting your own. I've written that in many sessions I've spoken. So the point is that we do not have a strategy because we don't listen to our gurus. We have been told that your gurus are all thieves. They are just doing for personal profits, and everybody can read the scriptures and they learn. Muslims and Christians don't do that. Their whole population is only one speaker, whosoever is their guru. And that's how they represent themselves very forcibly in political circles. Second important basic fault of the Hindus is that our Hindu leaders, Hindu temple priests, and Hindu community leaders, gurus, they do not take up the advisory role of the governments. Ideally, President Biden should be guided by a Hindu priest or a Hindu educated person who knows the Shastra and then helps him create proper strategies. Because without Hinduism, without Sanatan Dharma, nobody can be peaceful. India today is performing well because the Indian Prime Minister follows the Sanatan Dharma culture. Most of the 57 Islamic countries are not doing well because they don't follow the Sanatan Dharma culture. Most of the Europe is in turmoil because of the lack of Sanatan Dharma culture, and therefore till date the European governments exploit the local Romani people. I speak for all the Romani people. 40 million Romanis in Europe, they've been exploited till date. There are ancient sites of Romanis being taken away in southern France, and they are the ones who are telling everybody else about human rights. Human rights means if you are a Christian, you are a human, otherwise you're not a human. That's the whole point they're saying. So we have to counter that with a proper logic, that this is what, hey, Americans, wake up, become a human, because majority of the Americans are agnostic today, not religious. So it's time for us to go back to the original culture of the land. If you have come from Europe, welcome. But now here you become a Native American, not remain a European American.
Very well said. And you brought about the culture element, which is my favorite theme. Culture is critical. We are born in a system. We are born in a family. We are born in a life system that we adopt. We are all brown. We are naturally tanned people, as I prefer to call, instead of being brown. We are naturally tanned people. We don't need to go in a tanning machine to acquire the color of skin that we have. But it's very important to bear in mind the culture part of it. There is a cultural annihilation happening of Hindus in India. And interestingly enough, it is led, among other, through the first 5 education ministers who really altered the course of Hindu education and Indian education system through Bollywood. There was a time when Dilip Kumar and others they will use a different name. But today you are looking at the invasion of Indian culture that happens subliminally and directly. So much so that now people have begun to become aware. What was earlier a subliminal attack, surreptitiously shoved in, now it is becoming, no, that's not right. We have many social media platforms like Netflix and all. They make movies to denigrate things Hindu, items Hindu, whereas they will glorify thinks non-Hindu. And as Sharadji, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning, we are not here against anyone. Like as the saying goes, Hindus can't be against anyone because we have a complete freedom to pray whoever you want. A Shiva worshipper doesn't decry a Kali worshipper. A Durga worshipper doesn't decry Ganesh Bhagwan. So we are very inclusive community and faith system, but we are under definite attack, and there is a response happening to that now. People are openly talking about, for even Amitabh Bachchan was chided that आज आपके मुंह में जवान नहीं है कश्मीर फाइल के बारे में कुछ बोलने के लिए. Nobody is spared. Science and technology is with us. Presidents here talk about let's fight COVID with science, and I welcome that. If you fight life with science, Sanatan triumphs. The Abrahamic faiths will have to take a back seat because science makes it very clear that there is nothing special about a Christian cancer, Muslim cancer, or a Hindu cancer. A cancer is a cancer. Let's kind of face the fact. Sharadji, your thoughts?
So I agree to all your observation. I think India has definitely changed. The success of the Kashmir File movie has shown that whether the mainstream agrees or not, people have really started looking into our Sanatan faith in a very different light, especially the youth. And thanks to the social media, it's not only bringing the earlier. Remember, 10 years back, Delhi was allegedly called a rape capital when there was a lot of triggers happening, a lot of Nirbhaya type of cases happening because the social media was available in everybody's hand, mobile phone, and there were always the triggers available. But now the same thing has gone with the all these knowledge available, right? Especially about our religion. As Aditya rightly said, in the Abrahamic faith, it's always driven from the top. So they are very controlled, very organized, right? Either a caliph has to make a religious statement, or a pope has to make or a church pastor has to make a statement. Arm people doesn't make that statement. In Hinduism, there is so many sampradayas. There is no central body to say that what is right or what is wrong in anything. So that's where it is very widespread. Social media will play a big role. It's a boon in disguise, even though there will be initial challenges like the toolkit and all. But the same technology. So to the Hindus, what I say is, uh, uh, do not get emotional. Use the wokeism tool to further your cause. I was seeing the definition of minority in America, and you are nowhere mentioned the brown skin, the yellow skin. You are nowhere mentioned. The definition of the government of America, minority definition, is only for those blacks who are American, not the Hispanic blacks. And then they have Hispanic section, they have Puerto Rican section. So our next generation of Indian American who will actually save this country. And with your permission, I'm just pointing to the book, India America War in 2047. I have given all those things. Hindus have always been loyal to their karma bhumi, and America is our karma bhumi. And we will be not just standby or somebody who is using the resources, whether it's a Medicare or free social checks. We will contribute more than what America gives back to the community. And this is where the education should go to the politicians, that this is a community which is actually going to build you further strong, and you just cannot live without us. Because we're seeing the Russia-Ukraine war. America couldn't put the boot on the ground. You have only 300 million, 350 million. You will always need, if you want to keep the superpower status going, you need to have boots on the ground. You need to have and you cannot do yourself directly. You need allies. And India, with 1.35 billion population, and with the democratic values, America just cannot live without India. That's the truth. It's good they accept now, because 10-15 years down the line, it will be very hard, because then it will be like, you going and, you won't be in a negotiating position from the top. So they better understand that. And I'm not saying with arrogance, I'm saying with proper humility, that America needs India. And Sanatan value is a very inclusive value, right? We do not impose anything on anybody. But then our current generation, right? The youth should, instead of going into, we have already mastered the technology sector in this country. We now have to move to the legal, the different agencies, whether it's a CIA, FBI, police, or the foreign ministry. Indians need to get in there to bring the diversity, because this is what America and the liberal progressive policy is asking us to do. Wokeism. They are even going to the level of investing $300 million, putting all these agenda through universities and through different NGOs to the to India. So this tool can be used here too. We need to be careful with that and use our brain, because we have always been our USP has been our mind. So I think things will improve, but awareness needs to be done.
Thank you. Aditya, I'll take off on the statement made by Sharadji that, wokeism, the amount of money that is pouring in from the woke culture proponents, where does that come from? Both the thought and the money. What is the urgency for them to do what they are doing, knowing full well that it makes no sense?
Orwellian thought. Now, coming to the wokeism as a philosophy, if the enemy collapses from within, then there is no need to fight a war.
That's right.
And that's how the intelligence strategies work, and that's Chanakya Niti also. Now, there is so much of violence has been done just 2 generations or 3 generations before on blacks and browns. And I'm sure if Indians do not wake up, we will be the next in line. They're already planning. And so that's how the caste is introduced, and slowly Indian American businesses will be boycotted. All those things are going to start. And if we do not plan properly, and that's why I'm saying it in public, so that everybody knows that this is coming. Be ready. Now, wokeism as a concept was started to take revenge or to assure the systemic racism prevalent in the American education system. Now, I'll give you one example. Ziegler, I've written a whole article on Satology actually, on him. If you read the 10th grade textbooks about Hinduism, it says Krishna created caste system.
Yes.
Where Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. He says that this is naturally existing for Varna, not caste. Caste is a Portuguese word. But Krishna is being blamed. By showing Krishna down, they are showing the entire Sanatana Dharma down, and that's how they're preaching to the Christian followers and the Muslim followers that you are superior. That means if you are superior, you can guide others. They're inferior. So even though Hinduism is a superior culture and a superior philosophy, we have to listen to them like folded hands. Ideally, we should be speaking. You should be speaking. And Sharadji should be speaking to the congressmen and the senators. Now, let me come to the Republican parties and other political parties also. They have made one major mistake, and Democrats have corrected it. Most of the Democrat strategists are Indians. Saikat Chatterjee. Saikat is the one who is running the Bernie Sanders campaign, and is running the campaign of this thing, of AOC, and all the people who Republicans hate. But there is no Indian strategist in the Republican Party. So Republican Party is without a brain. So they keep on winning, not because of themselves, but they're winning because of Biden. Biden is helping them win. So it's Rahul Gandhi is the best campaigner for BJP. Here Biden is the best campaigner for Republicans. They should give him money actually. So the point is that we as a community, we do not understand that how our Gita, our scriptures make us see the symbol of it, the sign of an intelligent man is he is not judgmental. He has an open mind. That's an intelligent man. A not intelligent man is a dogmatic person. he is bound by some rules and dogmas. So Hindu community by nature and design is an open-minded community, an intelligent community, and it is the only community which should be guiding others. But instead of guiding others, we are learning. So that attitude has to change. It will change only when we reorient ourselves to the Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata as a main books of education.
Main books of education. That was, you really hit upon the exact theme that I had. And many years ago, I was told that Hindus do not need to go to Yale, Harvard, and Oxford to study lifestyle and management. We need to study our own texts, Mahabharata, Gita, Ramayana, to know the true meaning of life and the life that one needs to lead. All life lessons are right there. We are running out of time. I wanted to thank all of you. We have no questions, unfortunately, but that is okay. Thank you very much, Sharadji. Thank you very much, Adityaji, for being on the show today. And what is very important for us to bear in mind is that eventually what you do defines. It is time for us to stand and be counted. Swami Vivekanandaji's Avahan, to arise, awaken, assert, was never more relevant. To which I also add Vibhuti Jha's fourth A is called act. Because if you arise, awaken, and assert, but if you do not act, that you will use your knowledge to act, then all things fall flat. So this is what I wanted to say to you all. Get engaged in your community. Closing statement, I will ask you, Sharadji. I also wanted to say that, happy to announce to all the viewers that I have been chosen by Republican Party. Adityaji, your thought, they listen to you perhaps. I have been chosen by Republican Party to contest New York State Assembly seat in November, and I have given my consent. I have been approved, and the battle will be on. So, Sharadji, your closing statement.
So, congratulations for that, and we will be, as a community, totally behind you to make this be a successful experience. Your last statement about arise. What I feel is, see, when in our American universities, when our kid has to fill a form or we have to write some form, they ask about race. And nobody has asked us, and the way they have defined race is, are you Asian, are you Hispanic, are you Caucasian? Now, Asian Asian applies to the Chinese or the people with the Mongoloid race, not with the Indian race. So, and Russia, which is half Asia and half Europe, they don't write as a Asian or a Caucasian. They will write as a Caucasian. So what I have done with and I have started with myself, is I have made my son choose others section. There is a section in the race called others, and in the others parenthesis, I write India. Now let them challenge. I can go to the civil court or any court, because there is no definition of Asia as a geography. It is not a race. First of all, race is not a science. It was all created by somebody for some purpose. And they say that they fund a lot of money for doing the medical research based on the race. Those are again a different discussion. We'll talk again. I've written in my last book also how they have. There's a big scam there. So all I'll say is be assertive. Respect the rule of law and love this country. This is a great country, and this is your own country. Don't be shy at saying that somebody is doing mercy to you by accepting you or assimilating you. It's other way around. They are majority, and people have to come and come to our house rather than we going to their house. So this is how I see and how I live. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Aditya-ji. And just wanted to share, some people, one gentleman had asked the question, are there any study groups for Gita in USA? The question is addressed to you, Aditya-ji. There are several.
And Satology runs every day. There is an everyday Gita group at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. running for 17 years now.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend and have a great week ahead. See you next week. Satyameva Jayate.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.